Hey guys, welcome back to another lecture. In this video, we'll discuss about implementing and managing virtual networks. And we'll start with the first objective, that is configure and manage virtual networks in Azure. So what is a virtual network? A virtual network is a networking solution provided by Azure that allows you to design and implement networking for your resources. A VNet is an isolated environment similar to traditional physical network, but it's managed by Azure. A virtual network is primarily a set of IP addresses allocated to a network, which it can assign to resources. We can configure VNet with an address space as large as /16 CIDR block, which is equivalent to 65,536 IP addresses in IPv4 range. And when it comes to IPv6, we can use /48 CIDR block, which is equivalent to 1.208 into 10 to the power of 24 IP addresses, which is humongous. And however, as of today, many organizations predominantly use IPv4, and we will focus mostly on that to better understand about virtual networks. And when it comes to private IP addresses, that is, every virtual network has a set of private IP addresses. When it comes to private IP addresses, we have limited, uh, prefixes which we can use, because when it comes to IP addresses, there are two types, public and private. A public IP is something that is available on the internet. When it comes to private, you can only resolve the private IP address within the virtual network. That is, you can only communicate to another device with the private IP within the virtual network. When you try to do communicate from outside of the virtual network using private IP address, it doesn't get connected to the particular resource. So let's look at what are the available private IP addresses. This is a Wikipedia page on private network, and as we can see, the IETF has directed Internet Assigned Numbers Authority to reserve the following IP addresses for private networks. This is for all the networks across the world for all the companies. And as we know that private networks are confined to the network itself, even though multiple companies use the same address range, it doesn't get overlapped. And we have these three ranges which we can use for the private IP address, that is 10.0.0.0 to 10.255.255.255, which gives us a range of these many IP addresses. The largest CIDR block among this is 10.0.0.0/8, and as we know, the 10 in the first prefix over here is fixed, and we can change the rest all the numbers. And if we you see, like, we need to identify this as each number as a bit of 8 bits. That is, we have in total 32 bits, but we can modify 3 blocks of it, that is 24 bits. That's the host ID, and that is 24 bits. This number is equivalent to 2 power 24. And when it's come to 172.16.0.0, here we can only modify 20 bits. So this number is equivalent to 2 power 20. And here we have 192.168 as the fixed prefix, that is the mask bits, and we have the other two blocks as host ID, which we can modify, that is equivalent to 2 power 16, which is equivalent to this one. So now let's move on to Azure portal to create a virtual network and see how it looks. So we need to go to portal.azure.com, and you can create a free account for $200. I mean, Azure will give you $200 free to learn and experience Azure. You just need to provide a credit card for the free trial, and after that free trial, you can basically opt out or move into a pay as you go subscription where you will be charged from that. And there are so many articles from Microsoft which you can go through to create that. I already have one, so let's quickly jump onto this one. So let's create a virtual network. You just have to search for virtual networks and then create one. So you need to basically have the resources in the resource group, any resource group. So any resource. So basically, whenever you create a virtual network or a virtual machine or anything, it has to fall, it has to be inside a resource group. A resource group is kind of a logical segregation of resources. So I don't have any in place, so let's create one quickly. VNet I'll leave it as it, and then let's name our network 1, and let the region be US, and then the encryption, bastion, firewall, and DDoS. These are advanced topics, and we will discuss later in this course. And here is the net address space. As we discussed, the default address that Azure has provided falls into this one. Or if we do not want this, we can basically use 192.168.0.0. So here it provides us this address range, and this is the number of IP addresses which this virtual network will have. And Azure also creates a default subnet for us. A subnet is nothing but within a virtual network, if you want to segregate the resources based on a small group of network, that is called subnet. It's a subset of a virtual network similar to a virtual network, that's all. And it is mandatory to have at least one subnet where you can deploy the resources. You cannot deploy the resources directly into the VNet. It has to be inside the subnet. And say for example, if I modify this, you see the entered address range may not work correctly. It is recommended to use the ranges within the private non-routable address space defined. That goes with this one. So it has to definitely fall within these address ranges. So let me quickly modify that, and or let's review and create. So Azure validates these things, and it may take a minute, and then we can hit create. So generally virtual network deployment is pretty quick, and it shouldn't take more than a minute. So it has already started. So it's done. I mean, we have this notification. Let's refresh. Yeah, we can go to the resource. Now let's look at the options available over here. That is address space, the one which we have given, that is 192.168.0.0. So that is there, and we can have additional address range as well, or we can edit this. That is, say for example, while creating, you have given 10.0.0.0/16. Later you can update it to 15 as well, right? So that's possible to increase the address range. Like if this falls short for your requirement, you can go ahead and add a new address space or extend it as well. For now, let's not do that. And when it comes to subnet, Azure has already created a default subnet for us with 192.168.0.0/24, and when it comes to /24, that is 2 power 32 minus 24, that is 2 power 8. 2 power 8 is 256, but Azure is saying now we only have 251 available, and we don't have any resources deployed into this network as of now. But still, Azure has given us 5 less IPs. This is because whenever we create a subnet, Azure allocates 5 IPs of that subnet for Microsoft use. So that's the reason. And let's put an end to this chapter, and we'll meet again in the next chapter. Thank you.